After nearly 3 decades covering the Buffalo Bills, this guy knows what he's talking about. Welcome to Sal Speak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Maiorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Sal Speak. I am Sal Maiorana and I'm with my buddy and colleague Leo Roth. We've had a little bit of a hiatus as the Bills were on vacation. Leo and I were on vacation a little bit ourselves. But training camp arrives at St. John Fisher College tomorrow night, Thursday night, and Leo and I are gathered today to give you a little bit of a preview of what you can expect out at St. John Fisher College. So Leo, welcome back to your favorite podcast.
No, it is my favorite
Facebook
podcast.
Live.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be here, Sal.
I know it is.
As always, I'm honored.
It absolutely is. So Leo and I will be out there tomorrow night. They've only got one night practice scheduled in Pittsford this year. It's the opening night.
Like you said, Sal, don't blink.
I know, don't blink because you're going to miss it. The Bills are only going to be here through August 15th. It's the shortest camp they've ever had at Fisher. I'm pretty sure it's the shortest camp they've ever had, period. Because I remember Fredonia was a month long, and
absolutely.
Niagara University way back in the day was at least a month long. So it's a very unusual schedule. They also leave town. They've actually got a night practice scheduled back at New Era Field next week, so they're going to be gone for a period that they've never done that before when they've been in Pittsburgh. So it's a really weird schedule. We should probably tackle this right off the top, Leo. It really gets you wondering what the future is going to be at St. John Fisher. They are contracted to be there, I believe, through 2021. But it just seems like, and Sean McDermott, he's given the company line that, it's great to go away for the camaraderie, but it seems like they're building a new practice field back at the facility. Their facilities there are already tremendous for training. You start to wonder, Leo, if the Bills might be thinking about not doing training camp at Fisher. You did a little research on this. Why don't you share that?
It absolutely is laying the groundwork, and that contract that they have with Fisher doesn't mean anything. Worth the paper.
Can just write a check.
They'll cut that up, and no big deal there. So they're not bound. And I'm most interested, Sal, is that the fact that they would hold a night practice at New Era Field just to test the waters and to see if anybody shows up. We know the support they get here in Rochester. If they get some fans in that, obviously you're not going to fill that stadium up. But if they get, they're going to gauge it and see what the atmosphere is like, see how that works, and very clearly they're moving towards keeping it in Orchard Park, just like 21 other teams in the NFL do.
Before you give those numbers out, I know last year when McDermott was with the Panthers, they did an open practice at the stadium in Charlotte, and I want to think they drew about 50,000. I imagine it was free, like training camp would be free. So they drew 50,000. This might have been, and again, we haven't really talked to McDermott too much about training camp. This might have been his idea to go back to the stadium and say, hey, this worked in Charlotte, how about here? So I don't know, but go ahead and share some of the numbers.
But I think with McDermott too, if it's Rex Ryan, he would have stayed in Rochester another month probably, and had the big top going, and he was the center of attention.
24/7 Rex here.
McDermott's the opposite guy. We all know that, and one positive, if you're a football fan, Bills fans, just saying this guy is all business, and he doesn't really want to jump into this whole marketing thing so much. The Bills, it's almost 20 years now that they've had this relationship with Fisher. It worked. It was mutually beneficial for both parties. They both increased their exposure. They both got out of it what they wanted. It was a tremendous deal. The Bills couldn't have done a better job with that camp, and Fisher couldn't have done a better job as host. But I think all things are trending towards some of the final days, and this might be, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last training camp. Now I did a little number crunching just before we came on air, Sal, just for fun, and 21. As I said, last year, six teams that train away made the playoffs, and 6 teams that train on their home base, they made the playoffs. But of course, there's only 11 teams that go away, so the percentages based on last year's records, you got a 55% chance of making the playoffs if you go away for training camp. 29% if you stay at home.
Well, that's only last year. Working for them.
But I'll also say, this is a completely unscientific research on my part, of course. So, all those teams that make the playoffs, what do they all have, Sal? A great quarterback.
and probably a pretty good coach too.
Yeah. So.
You're right. And the thing is that the playoffs every year, we know that 5 or 6 teams who make it one year don't go back the next year. So it's a very fluid situation.
Yeah.
It still remains mind-boggling that the Bills haven't found their way into that rotation of making the playoffs at least once in 17 years. But whatever, we'll see. I think their time at Fisher, this was kind of a clear sign to me that they might be moving away from doing training camp here. It's such a short period of time. There's only, I think, 13 practices that are going to be out there. That's a ridiculous.
And the fact too is that, and on top of that, they're early in the morning.
Right.
Most of them, like you said, only the one night. You can't, it's going to be very difficult for people to get there and make and have the atmosphere like they had in the past.
I think Rex typically started practice around 9:15.
Yeah.
So this is about a half hour early if the schedule holds. And you're right, everything is shuttle bus there.
Yeah.
So people have to get up a little early.
It's an effort now.
Get to those shuttle bus areas and get in. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So set your alarm
I just think
clocks.
teams are finding, a lot of coaches just realizing, they're just asking themselves, gee, do we really have to do this like the old days? I agree. There is bonding. There probably is a lot of late night things that can go on meeting wise that they probably can't do in their own places like in a regular season setting. But they get, again, so much has changed, Sal, over the last 2 decades, and the fact that they don't need training camp to get in shape. They don't need it to even practice together because they have so much off season work.
They do it all spring.
They come to camp, hitting the ground running. So many. It doesn't, I don't want it to see it leave. I think it's tradition. It's got a lot of great things about it. It's great things for our community. But I think we have to come to a realization that at the end of the day, I don't think Bills fans and everyone, we're just going to say, hey, if they feel it's better to train back at home and they can start winning some football games, well, then at the end of the day, that's what fans are going to want.
That's right.
So
they don't care if they're here or not. So what we thought we'd do on the return edition here is break it down for you position by position, what you might want to see or what you're going to see out at training camp battles-wise. So we'll start at the top. We'll start on offense. And obviously a quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, is back. I wasn't sure that was going to happen when the season ended, but he is back. He's the undeniable starter. The big question, Leo, is going to be they drafted Nathan Peterman in the 5th round. They signed T.J. Yates, who's a veteran, a middling veteran who's worked in Rick Dennison, the new offensive coordinator's offense. So I figure, Yates is probably going to be the backup quarterback. The job that's up for grabs is
number 3.
Peterman versus Jones. And the way you look at that, Cardale Jones is Rex Ryan's pick and Doug Whaley's pick. Nathan Peterman is, well, that wasn't Bean yet, but Sean McDermott's pick. So he's got a leg up there. That'll be the interesting position to watch there.
This is a tricky thing because, I applaud that they took a quarterback in the draft, and Peterman's a really interesting candidate. Probably one of those, he was a little bit under the wire at draft time, but he's a very good quarterback.
Right.
Could be a guy that really, wouldn't that be wonderful if they found some steel here?
The draft people claim he was the most pro-ready quarterback.
Yes,
what that means, who knows?
Yeah. But it did muddle the waters there because I'm kind of a Cardale Jones fan as well because I'd like to see him. That wasn't just a bad pick. He's a very intriguing prospect as well. So. But you're saying, I guess if you're the Bills, do you want to go with Jones or Peterman as your number 2? The safest move, obviously, is to go with the veteran, even though he's a nobody. So
exactly.
At least he got some time.
DJ Yates is just
now. Maybe they can find a way to stash one of those guys. Who knows?
Yeah, there could be. Maybe somebody gets hurt. Who knows?
Yeah.
You don't root for that, but it's very possible.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to running back. Obviously, LaShawn McCoy is the number 1 guy. You hope that he can stay healthy. That's the issue. He's 29 years old as of this month now. That's an age when running backs start to lose a step. We'll see. He's battled injuries while he's been here. And now, of course, the pressing issue with the Bills is they let Mike Gillislee get away, which, he's the backup running back. I'm not going to kill them for that. And I think you can find a backup running back pretty much anywhere. The Bills have a couple options. Jonathan Williams was a draft pick of theirs 2 years ago. His rookie season, because of Gillislee, was kind of a non-starter. He didn't do a whole lot. They've got a kid named Cedric O'Neal who, apparently had a good off-season workout program. I put no stock in any of that. Some of our colleagues, they love to jump in on, this guy was great. Yeah, he was wearing shorts and there was no tackling.
A running back had a great off-season not being tackled.
Right, so who knows? But that's an issue. They got to figure out who the backup is because LaShawn McCoy to get through 16 games is probably unlikely. So I doubt you have a feel for either one of those.
Well, I feel losing Gillislee, I think that is it has some significance. I agree with you. It's a backup running back, but the way the Bills, they led, leading the NFL in rushing 2 years in a row was a combination of, Tyrod Taylor, obviously the running quarterback, McCoy really being very productive and a great pick by Doug Whaley and Ryan.
Right.
And then Gillislee, just another good find by Whaley.
He was.
Here we are making Doug Whaley sound like the GM of the century. But those were good moves by Doug. And so I think, I know what you're saying. You can find running backs. Well, you know what? The Bills had really two good ones in McCoy and Gillislee. That was a heck of a combination.
Yep.
Can Jonathan Williams be the guy? I don't know, and I can't tell you. And to be honestly, with O'Neal,
who knows?
We got to see him out there. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and that's what preseason games are for, to figure this stuff out. Obviously, the big competition in my eyes is wide receiver. The Bills have just got so many question marks at that position, and it starts right at the top with Sammy Watkins. You just don't know what you're going to get from this guy. Now, I just saw a report that claims that he has announced that he's 100% healthy and ready to go. I still believe the Bills will probably baby him during training camp. But, Leo, he has got to be that number one guy, and he has to start living up to that draft status. They did not pick up his fifth-year option, which was a telling sign to me. They are not fully on board with Sammy Watkins, and it's going to be up to him to have a great year this year. And then if that happens, he might just take it to free agency and leave town. Okay, we figure Watkins is going to be out there and he'll be set.
I believe Watkins is 100%. The problem is,
can he stay that way?
He plays football.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many cuts does it take? How many hits does it take?
Yeah. So now go to number two.
But he's a hell of a player. We know he's a great player.
Let's assume he's going to be there. He's your number one guy. Leo, they've got just a hodgepodge of guys that I couldn't even tell you how this is going to break down. They picked Zay Jones in the second round. I loved that pick.
You love that guy.
I really liked him. I liked him when I met him at the scouting combine. You look at his numbers, undeniable.
Didn't he get hurt too?
No, I don't think. Oh, yes, he did. He had a minor, I forget what it was, though. He was a little knee injury.
A little ham or a knee.
I think it was a little knee injury early. But he was back at the end of
the mini camps. Yes,
he
came
back. He's 100%.
I'm just throwing it out there, just trying to be mean.
You're such a pessimist. Yeah. You always got to bring up the negative. See, it isn't all just
why you bring me in.
Some of him. You think that Zay Jones will be the guy who wins the number two. They drafted him to be that guy. And I think he will ultimately win that job. The issue, though, is that wide receiver is a tricky position for rookies in the NFL. It isn't just running out there and catching the ball.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, especially with this team, the way they run the ball. You remember Robert Woods, who he would be replacing. He was a great downfield blocker. So Zay Jones is going to have to prove that he can stick his nose in there and block in the running game. So you would think he's the front runner, Leo. Then they've got a bunch of guys that they literally picked up off the street. NFL veterans who haven't really done much in their careers. Philly Brown, Jeremy Butler, Andre Holmes from Oakland, who actually did have some production there. They just signed somebody. I'm losing my mind. They just signed somebody recently, I thought.
Yeah, well, they had Bolden in yesterday.
They had Bolden, and they didn't get him.
Yeah.
I forget who the other guy was, but there's nobody memorable here. They've got real problems at wide receiver. If this passing game is going to, step up and be better than it has been the first 2 years, Tyrod, he's been an issue, but he needs some help. And right now, I'm not sure he's got it.
Well, their passing game sales have been in the bottom five.
Well, Taylor's 2 years for sure.
Yeah, so which is, that's the area to improve. You can't sit down at the bottom of the league in the NFL, the passing league that it is, and expect to win consistently. The axiom of run the ball and play defense. Well, the Bills ran the ball. You can't run the ball. They've been great running the ball. They got a really good offensive line. They had a really good running back. But you got to be able to throw this football. And when you look at you didn't even touch on the tight ends a little bit.
Yeah.
They did add some fullbacks that might help out a little bit. But you're right. Zay Jones has to walk right in and be the player.
He does.
Because these other guys they picked up are very pedestrian. Now, but I guess you know what? We welcome it. I guess we welcome change because what have we labored on the last couple of years? Boy, talking about Robert Woods and Marquise Goodwin and easily.
Walter Powell,
and,
Desmond Lewis.
All these guys. Yes.
You can't win with those
So
guys.
if you're bringing
you really
in,
can't.
yeah, if you're getting a fresh crop of the guys who are the 3, 4, and 5 guys, but you know what? A team's got to have really 2 outstanding. You need 2 number 1
in
receivers
this day and age, you do.
And a clear number 1 tight end.
You mentioned tight end. Let's just go there. Charles Clay. Let's face it. He has not lived up to that contract that they gave him. They way overpaid for this guy, and now they're saying his knee injury is kind of a chronic thing. It's not going to be going on. It's not like he's healed. He's got to have a chronic knee problem. I just don't know. They need a guy at tight end who can make a difference. Charles Clay hasn't been that guy. Hopefully this year, maybe that'll change in a new offense, but they need him, and they have nobody behind him either. That's
going to depend on the offensive coordinator. It'll depend on Dennis, and it'll depend on Tyrod.
Utilizing
this guy, because I don't think Clay's a bust by any means. I think he's a fine player.
He's a good player who hasn't been utilized properly, who hasn't been healthy either. So he needs to pick it up. All right, let's move on to offensive line. Four of the spots I think are filled. I saw one report that John Miller will be in competition for that right guard spot with the rookie Dawkins. Well, I don't see that at all. I see Deion Dawkins, who they traded up into the second round to pick, as the competition at right tackle for Jordan Mills. That's really the only job that I think is up to
Miller's a strong player. Why did you get Dawkins to push him out?
Right. And Dawkins played tackle in college.
Yes.
So I know that some guys projected him as a guard in the NFL, but the Bills didn't trade up to get a guard. They've already got 2 good guards.
The best scenario is that Mills gets the hint, and because I'd rather have Mills in there than the rookie.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So
if he can play well, but I'm not sure he's capable.
Right, but
if anything, at least they'll have a decent swing tackle, whether it's Dawkins or Mills.
At least it's right and not left that they're worried about.
Well,
but maybe they are.
You mentioned left, but Cordy Glenn is the one that you're kind of worried about injury-wise.
Yes, you're
right.
He
missed some time in the spring with a back injury. You're not quite sure how he'll hold up. So let's hope it doesn't end up being Deion Dawkins playing left tackle at some point this season.
And Sontrell Henderson is probably not a.
Well, he's not available.
He's a non-factor with the 10-game
suspension. And I'm not quite sure where his career is anyways.
And some of the other weirdness that has happened with him. So
yeah, I think if Deion Dawkins comes in and proves he can play, I think when Sontrell's suspension is up, he might just get cut from the team. I don't know. I can't say that for sure.
And we've had the coaching.
It seems like that's possible.
And we've had the coaching change. So rule of thumb is wherever there's. Whenever in doubt, go with the guy that came in under the new coach.
Exactly. So
that's what happens.
That doesn't bode well for Sontrell. We saw what happened with Cyrus Kouandjio. He got shipped out, so that could be what happens to Henderson. Okay, on the defensive side, you know what? Before we go there, I'll recognize a couple things. There's mostly just wise guy comments in here. Nothing really particularly pointed towards us. Pete says 4-12 predicted by SI. Thoughts on that? SI really has no faith. Sports Illustrated really has no faith in the Bills. I don't know that they're a 4-win team. I've been saying 7 all along, Leo. I don't know if they're going to be a 4-win team. The Jets are in their division. They should win at least 2 against them.
Nationally, I've noticed our colleagues I think they've learned their lesson.
They're down on the Bills.
They're down on the Bills. They're not pumping them up by any means. Maybe if Rex was around, because Rex was kind of well liked, they would give him throw in a few more victories for him. If Rex Ryan was the coach, the Bills would be 9-7. Would be the predictions. Yeah, you know what? I'm not down in the 2-14 area by any means, but you look at the roster top to bottom, Sal, and the changes that have been made. Yeah, I would. They're that 7-9.
Yeah, they're not a playoff team.
They're we hate to sound like a cop out here, but you have to look at the roster and what's happened here, and it's. Yeah, we're looking at 7-9, 8-8, 6. Anyway, we all know there's 2-3 games that can swing.
There's those swing games, and unfortunately, the Bills have usually lost those games in recent past. Adam Merkel just says the Bills make me want to puke. I can understand that emotion, Adam. I'm not going to deny that at all. Fred Liebert says 2 years with this guy, and I'm sure he's talking about Tyrod Taylor. On to the next. Well, that's true. Could be McDermott. He wasn't specific here. On to the next, same old story, tired of it. So it could be McDermott, new coach, or it could be Tyrod Taylor. He wasn't specific. Adam Merkel comes back again. Hey, Sal, you should cover a real team. Well, they are a real team. They just aren't a very good team. That's been unfortunate for the last 17 years. Josh Nurgis says, here is the only story Tom Brady hasn't retired yet. He makes a good point there, Leo.
He does make a good point.
Nothing the Bills do right now is probably going to matter.
You know, I will, and you know, but by no means are we you know, you guys know us. We don't make apologies for the Bills, but it's a clear fact that they've been in the division with arguably I believe the greatest quarterback of all time, and with the greatest coach of all time. It's a factor.
It is. What do I say?
It's a darn factor.
What do I say every year, Leo? The Bills, instead of being every other team in football or every other division, the other 7 divisions, where they're one of 4 teams trying to win a division, the Bills can't win their division. So they're one of 9 or
Trying
maybe
for a
10
wild
teams
card.
trying for 2 wild card spots. Do the odds on that. It's a little bit different. It's a lot different. So it's a tough thing for the Bills with Tom Brady and the Patriots being in their division. Aaron J. Rubin, a little bit of us, Leo, says, poor Leo and Sal. Great sports reporters, thank you, that have to cover this garbage product year in and year out. Kudos for making it somewhat interesting. So Aaron, thank you very much. Matthew Futter says, all depends on the quarterback. Tough to see Tyrod better than average. Shame, because I like the guy too. I do like Tyrod. He's a good kid, but he is. He's average. He needs to be better than average if they have a chance to win. So
what is? I'll throw this to you, Sal. What does Dennison do to help this kid? Make him really be? Can you make a natural runner, natural athlete into an NFL pocket passer? Now, I will say that Dennison has an offense that will maybe utilize Tyrod, his skills,
his movability.
So, yes, they do a lot. He has a lot of these plays that are going to get him out on the move.
I think Dennison,
good and bad, but I mean that's a good and a bad thing.
But I think Dennison has watched enough tape.
Yeah.
And he probably has figured out in 2 years that Tyrod's been the starter. He's only 6'1", and he does have trouble seeing the middle of the field. We mentioned this with Charles Clay. That's part of the reason why Clay really hasn't been utilized to his fullest potential. So maybe I think Dennison is going to work in some of the moving pocket stuff to get him away from traffic and maybe open up passing lanes that way.
They brought him back knowing, I mean, this is a fresh new staff. They put a new set of eyes on him before they made these decisions. So it's encouraging that way, because we always, and again, this goes back to Rex, and Rex had to find a quarterback when he took over. So he had a much bigger lift, McDermott comes in here, and his lift's not as big as what Rex's was.
He's got a 2-year starter,
and so he's got a quarterback. He's got a lot more pieces in place. But again, we're sitting here. Geez, when you think about this, well, gee, is McDermott is the coach the guy that gets them the 2 more wins they need to make the playoffs? And it's such a maybe that was one of the topics. We're jumping around here, but. You asked the other day in your top 10 questions, are the Bills more disciplined? Will they be a different team under this guy? And I would very much say absolutely they will be.
I'd say they'll be more disciplined. How different they are, one-loss record, I really
don't
know.
Penalties and preparation could translate into that victory or 2 more.
Maybe.
But,
all right, let's kick through the defense real quick. We've been on for 25 minutes here, so we don't want to keep you all day. So defensively, Leo.
Two areas, right?
Really, the front line,
secondary.
The front line is set. The change to the 4-3, I think, is a very good thing for the Bills. It puts all 4 guys on the front line back where they belong. Marcel Darius and Kyle Williams are the tackles, which is where they should have been all along. And Shaq Lawson and Jerry Hughes are now pass rushing defensive ends. Rex Ryan tried to fit a square peg into a round hole last year the last 2 years with that defense. Jerry Hughes and last year Shaq Lawson had no business being outside linebackers. They're not those kind of players. So that was a good move. The only problem the Bills have up front, because I think it's the strongest position group, is they have no depth. Those 4 guys are all very good, but man, they got nothing behind them, so that's going to be something to watch. Linebacker is the place. That's where I think the Bills have got a lot of figuring out to do. Right now, Leo, on the depth chart, it'll show Preston Brown as the middle linebacker. It's going to show Lorenzo Alexander on the strong side, and on the weak side right now, Ramon Humber, whoever he is. He was here last year, but wasn't much of an impact guy, more of a special teams guy. Those are the 3. And then you've got in the mix, they've signed this Gerald Hodges, who played for San Fran last year, had about 80 tackles.
He's a strong player.
Reggie Ragland is back, the rookie from 2016, missed the whole year. He is right now in competition with Brown, but there could be a situation where Brown wins the middle spot and Ragland gets moved outside. But this is his first year. Can he adapt to being on the outside? And then Alexander is probably safe over there. Give me your. This is an area that really is a problem, I think, for the Bills.
I hope, in my perfect world, Ragland wins the middle starting job. He's a much more. He has the potential to be a greater top-end talent than Preston Brown. Brown is. It's not to diss Brown. Brown's a workhorse. He's played a lot of snaps.
He's led the team in defensive snaps 3 years ago.
But he's not a top-end guy.
He's not.
We kind of know that. So Ragland, best potential in the middle. Alexander outside, we know he's a demon pass guy. 12.5 sacks. There's something about the guy. You wonder how he does it.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, great leader in the locker room.
What I worry about him is he did it in a 3-4.
But he did it in the other
different situation now.
Right. And then Hodges would nail it down in one of the other spots because he's a good player, veteran. Yeah. He was a good pickup, again. But you say, and I'm glad they went to the 4-3. Obviously, they have better linemen than they did linebackers.
Yes.
And I think you got to obviously
get more of them.
Get those 4 guys on the field,
get them on the field,
as opposed to tinkering around on this linebacker lineup last year. So it's a good move that way. It's an obvious move. So, but it is, McDermott's a really good football coach, but he's also had in Carolina, he had some really good football players.
He did.
With a Luke Kuechly.
And he's got a couple on his team.
And so he does have them. So hopefully, we can see what he does with them.
What he doesn't have, though, is Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly as the quarterback on defense. That makes a big difference when you got a guy like that.
On McDermott's scheme, the middle linebacker is the guy.
It is critical.
And also a big-time safety.
Yeah. So go to secondary. Another place where the Bills have totally revamped. There's only one guy of the top 5, if you count nickel corner, and that was Roby last year. Only guy back is Ronald Darby, who had a down year, by the way, last season. He's going to start at one corner. They drafted Tre'Davious White in the first round to essentially be the other cornerback who replaces Stephon Gilmore.
He has to come through.
A guy, Leo, who didn't get a lot of love in Buffalo, but I think people are going to realize he was a pretty good player, and they're going to see that in New England this year. So that's a big job for Tre'Davious White to have to come in and fill those shoes. And then at nickel, they've got some guys left over like Kevon Seymour. Leonard Johnson's a guy to watch. He played for the Panthers under McDermott. He'll be in the competition for the nickel job. So that's going to be interesting. There's a couple other guys that their names escape me. But the key is going to be Tre'Davious White, Kevon Seymour, and Leonard Johnson, I think, battling for those 2 spots, the starting corner and the nickel spot. And then the safeties turned over. Corey Graham and Aaron Williams were gone. And they brought in their big free agent signing was Micah Hyde from the Packers. A real good signing. I like that player. And they brought in Jordan Poyer from the Browns, who the resume on him isn't nearly as good as Hyde's. No. But right now he projects as the starter because they have literally no depth at safety. There's really nobody that I think will even compete with those guys.
And got Rambo back.
Oh, that's right. They just got Rambo.
Now, Rambo
could help.
Rambo helps.
You're right. I forgot about him.
Absolutely, he does.
They just signed him yesterday.
I think most Bills fans remember him. And Bakari, he made some big plays for them.
It'll be interesting how he does in McDermott's scheme.
But now we have a scheme.
That'll be interesting to watch.
It's telling that the big signings really for McDermott were Hyde and Poyer. It's like they hit those guys early out of free agency, and you could tell what he was trying to. You could tell where he saw on this team that needed the help, and it's true. Although I did like Corey. I did like Corey Graham.
But he was in decline.
Yeah, I know he was. So you got to know. You got to know when it's time, and he played well for the Bills.
Plus, his salary cap hit was ridiculous this year.
Now, so you're right, and then McDermott's first pick is
a cornerback.
So you know where the thinking goes with this coach. He's a defensive coach. He knows he's got to build up that side of the ball. His scheme, linebackers and secondary, and that's where he likes to play with, do some interesting things with, be aggressive with. Does he have the players? We're going to find out. I don't think the man for man, it stacks up to what he had down in Carolina, but that's where the coaching is going to come in. That's where this is not going to be a year where it's going to take some more patience. And Bills fans, that's the one word they hate the most.
Sick of that. Special teams, real quick, we'll close. Stephen Hauschka is the new kicker, replaces Dan Carpenter. That was a move that they had to make. Carpenter was in decline. Hauschka actually is a very good kicker with a strong leg. They won't need a kickoff specialist because he can do that too.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Punter, Colton Schmidt had a bad year last year. They do have a kid in camp. I think his name is Austin Ricow. And according to some people, they think there will be a competition there. Again, it's punter. I don't think anybody really cares, but it won't be just the usual 2 kickers are going to make the team. There will be a little bit of a competition. So they're only here for 13 practices in Rochester. The first preseason game, I believe, is August 10th, I want to say. It's a Thursday night, I forget exactly, but against the Vikings. So
you love preseason too, so.
We're revving it up, Leo. It's time to get going here. Are you psyched? You fired up?
Time to go. Well, what the heck? It's football. You know when I'll get psyched, Sal, is when you walk. It's like I was like this when I was a kid and I played football. When you walk out and you smell the grass, you smell the grass. It's hot. You know it's time to play football. That mud, the mud and the grass smell, and it'll be. And I encourage fans to maybe get out there. It's going to be quick, and you know what? It could be the last training camp in Rochester.
Yep, it is still a fun place to bring the kids, so we hope to see you out there. I'll be out there every day. Leo will be out there, I'm guessing, occasionally.
I'll be out there, Sal.
And if you want to interact with me, you know my name, you know the mug, just yell at me. Just don't swear at me because I'm really getting tired of that out there. But I'll be happy to talk Bills football with you. A reminder, August 6th, is Sunday afternoon, we're going to have a Bills tailgate party at the Back Nine Grill on Fairport. I think it's on Fairport Road over there, right? There's Back Nine Grill across from Oak Hill on East Avenue, really.
It's right on East Avenue.
Yeah. $20 gets you a ticket to the event, food, drink. It gets you into practice. I think we get the guys, I think somehow they get them over there to practice. I'm not sure how they're doing it.
You need a ticket to get to practice?
No, but it gets you the parking. You don't have to take the shuttle.
Oh,
I think we will take the people over there somehow, some way. I'm not sure. But I'll be out there before at the 2:15 practice. That day, I'll be out there at the Back Nine, 11 to 1. So lunch, Bills talk with me, and whatever else you want to discuss. Hopefully some Yankees and some Cubs. Always happy to talk about those 2 topics. But keep that in mind. We'd love to have you out there.
Buying shots, Sal?
I am not buying shots, but maybe the company will. So don't come to me for that. But I hope to see you out there. We'll be doing Sal Speak on a regular basis. Again, Leo will be with me for the bulk of those, I hope. So until then, we'll talk to you, and hopefully we'll see you at camp in the next few days. For Leo, I'm Sal. Have a great day.